Hi everybody, in this week's episode of Are We in ELA or Social Studies? I am going to talk about the writing assignment that you have in Social Studies. It is the first time this year that I am asking you to write a full-blown essay, but it's okay, you got this. You know how I know? Because you're going to be using ideas, the same format that you use in ELA, the same format you have been using for a couple of years in ELA. So, the purpose of this video is for me to show you how to apply ideas to the social studies practices. Okay, so we're going to blend them together. So hopefully by the end of this, you will have a really good idea, see what I did there, of how to do this essay. And you're going to be great. I know you're going to be great because teachers really like to brag about how smart and wonderful their students are. So I've actually seen samples of your writing from ELA, both in 7th grade and in 8th grade. So I know that you can do this. All right, here we go. Okay, let's take a look at the ideas format that you use in ELA. You've been using this for a number of years, so this should be a super quick review. You know it as an introduction paragraph with a thesis statement, details about a statement or claim, evidence to support your claim from the sources, analysis of evidence, the how and why does this support your claim, and the summary of your argument. Now let's take a look at the social studies practices. And as I explain them to you, you should be able to recognize, hey, we do that all the time in history class. And then I'm going to take you through ideas again, and I'm going to show you how each of these practices plug into one of those steps. So hopefully this will help you make sense when you are writing an essay in a social studies class versus ELA. You're still doing the same thing. You're just doing it in a slightly different way. All right, social studies practice number 1 is all about data collection. You can use primary sources, firsthand accounts, you can use secondary sources. Okay, but this is gathering information from multiple sources. Those can be speeches, they can be letters, personal accounts, maps, charts, like the census data that we use every once in a while, and drawings or photographs. Okay, we have talked about each and every one of these things so far this year. Social studies practice number 2 is when you start to critically examine a source. Okay, you found a source, but how is it going to help you make your claim? Okay, you do that by recognizing author's purpose, point of view, and bias. This sounds a lot like ELA. You can extract and paraphrase significant ideas. Assess the strengths and limitations of the arguments. Distinguish between fact and opinion. And draw inferences and conclusions. Social studies practice number 3. It's where you start to synthesize the data. I'll tell you what I mean by that. You can recognize differences among multiple accounts. You're going to establish validity by comparing and contrasting multiple sources. Okay, if you're trying to make a claim, you want to look at what multiple sources say to make sure that your claim is valid. So what you do when you are comparing and contrasting these multiple sources, you're asking yourself, are they telling a similar story? Are they saying something that is the same? Are they contradicting themselves, each other? Do I need to find other evidence? This helps you frame appropriate questions for further investigation. I can tell you from experience, a lot of times I have set out with a thesis statement, this is the paper I'm going to write, and my research starts to tell a very different story, and so I have to change my question. Social studies practice number 4, construct and communicate arguments by citing supporting evidence. Okay, you can predict likely outcomes. Demonstrate and defend an understanding of ideas. So this shows your audience that you understand how your evidence supports your claim. Devise new outcomes or solutions. You can compare and contrast viewpoints or illustrate cause and effect. Thinking back to the Revolutionary War, when we did like our brackets about the causes of the Civil War, when we were having the debate about which cause was maybe, I don't want to say more important, but we talked about the effect, which one had a bigger effect on the events that unfolded afterwards. Social studies practice number 5, developing historical awareness. Evaluating how circumstances of time and place create context and contribute to action and reaction. That's a big thing. It's much simpler than it sounds. This is just kind of understanding what else is going on around this event that we were talking about, around this one thing. Okay, what is the context in which people would behave that way? Why would that be a good decision? Why would that be an argument that needed to be made? Recognizing how and why historical accounts change over time. Identifying patterns of continuity and change over time, and making connections to the past. Okay, we've talked a number of times, even going back to the very first unit, about colonial America, how the geographic regions are, planting the seeds, so to speak, for how the nation then develops and divides. Okay, looking at the Constitutional Convention and talking about how some of the debates and compromises that were being held and things that were being decided during that time, okay, end up leading to more division in the country, okay? And how sometimes there is the same issues that we were dealing with back then that we're still trying to face today. Perceiving and presenting past events as they may have been experienced at the time. This can be a challenge. It's really easy to put our 2021 lenses on and say, wow, that was crazy. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But you have to be able to, again, put yourself in the context of the event and how it was happening, and to try to perceive it, try to understand it as somebody who lived in the moment. So when we were talking about the Constitutional Convention, you're answering questions based on somebody who was a delegate from one of those states, not an 8th grade student in 2021. And that is called historical empathy, okay? Being able to kind of place yourself in someone else's shoes for a minute and consider what their lived experience was, and not looking at it from your student's perspective. All right, how in the world do these social studies practices fit into this ideas? Well, let's take a look. When you are writing your introduction paragraph, when you're coming up with your claim or your thesis statement, okay, you're actually using social studies practice 4, where you're constructing and communicating an argument. And oftentimes you're using your historical awareness in order to make that claim. Okay, when we're making details, or not making, when we are coming up with our details about our statement or claim, that's social studies practice 2, where you're critically examining your sources, and 4, where you're constructing and communicating an argument. Really, I think social studies practice 4 kind of weaves its way through all of these, but sometimes it lends itself a little bit better than others. All right. Evidence to support your claim from the sources. All right, you're collecting data. You are establishing validity. That's practice number 3. Okay, and again, you are constructing and communicating an argument. When you're analyzing your evidence, you are critically examining your sources still, and you are establishing validity across multiple accounts. Okay, you want to find multiple sources that are going to back up your claim. How does it support your claim? All right, in this step, you are explaining my evidence here proves my thesis because la 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 la. And then when you get back into the summary, you're going to kind of repeat social studies practices 4 and 5, constructing your argument and still using that historical awareness all the way through. So there you have it. The ELA ideas meets social studies and the social studies practices. So hopefully that gives you a clearer understanding of how to apply the things that you learn in ELA into other courses like social studies. I know you can do it pretty easily with math and science together. We are starting a project doing that very soon. So hopefully this makes it even clearer for you. So good luck, you can do it, and I look forward to reading your assignments.